Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. I'm your host, Denney, and today we're diving into a topic that's misunderstood by most people, but mastered by the wealthy, and that's stock options trading. Now, if you've ever thought stock options were just for gamblers or Wall Street insiders, think again, because when you understand them the right way, options can be a powerful cash flow tool, one that you can use in any market. Now, joining me today is Rich Dad expert Andy Tanner, who's one of the best in the world, in my opinion, at breaking this down so people can understand it. Now, before we get started, make sure you visit stockcastbonus.com, grab your free investing tools and resources. If you want to create smarter cash flow from stocks, that is your first step, stockcastbonus.com. Andy, welcome back to the show.
Hey, this is a great topic, Del. I don't know that I would be nearly as involved in stocks if I didn't have the options market too. And there's, two or three real important reasons for that. So this will be a great topic.
I'm so excited because when I learned stock option trading, it blew my mind of the possibilities. But before we even get into that, stockcastbonus.com, there's a great resource. There's a few great resources in there. Can you tell our listeners what they receive by going there?
Yeah, everything, as you mentioned there, helps people move forward. We got a lot of free stuff there, and we've changed it a bit recently where there's several choices. There's free webinars. There are downloadable ebooks. There's really cool stuff there. And the reason we created that is really, when people want to act. I've been on the warpath, I guess, or the pulpit pounding this, is there's so much content consumption, but not a lot of action that follows it. Edutainment, it's interesting. There's been reality TV and there's edutainment where we're interested in learning things, but our purpose is to elevate the financial well-being of all humanity, everybody, including everyone watching, and that requires action. And so since we know that, we put up that site to give people something they can do and recipes, daily habits that they can start to bring cash flow to their lives. So that's what that is.
All right. I love it. And it goes right along with what we're talking about today. So stock options. So two-part question here. One, what exactly are stock options and why should the average investor even care?
Well, number one, option is another word for choice. And everyone likes to have lots of choices. No one wants to, the more choice you have, the more freedom you have. And that's really important because if I buy Apple, I don't have a way to make that go up. I have a way to stop it from going down. I don't have any control over that. So, risk is about control. And I really don't have anything I can do to make it go up or down. So what a stock option does is it gives me the choice to buy something at a price that I like, or I get the choice to buy something or get the choice to sell something at a price that I like. So for example, if I saw a stock that I was suspecting might go up, not sure whether to pull the trigger or not yet, I can say, I'm going to put an option on this. I'm going to lock in my choice, my option to buy this low. And that way, if it goes high, I still have the choice to buy it low. That's my option. On the other side of the coin, if I have a stock that has soared, it's doing really well, and I don't want to, deal with it going down, I can certainly lock in a price where I can sell it. And now that's my choice. That's my option. That's what Mark Cuban did with his Yahoo stock. It was, probably around $100 a share. He says, I want the choice to sell this if it goes down. I want that freedom to do that. So that's what an option is. It's just another word for choice. And it's like putting something on layaway. You say, look, I want it. I want it at that price. Hold it for me. And I may buy the stock. I may not buy the stock. I'm going to keep my choice there open. That's what an option is. Very simple.
Now, what would you say?
That was a two-parter. Yeah, I didn't answer why it was important. The reason it's important is it increases our control. It can give us leverage and it can give us income. And so we can delve into all of those advantages, but those are the top three right there for sure.
Now, as someone is getting into trading in the market, there's a lot of myths that might come about stock options. Like it's too risky, it's too complicated, it's gambling, whatever it might be. What in your ideas, in your mind, what's the biggest myth about stock options that keeps beginners away?
Well, I think the amount of risk that's there is probably the most misunderstood thing. I don't know if it's a myth, but it's definitely misunderstood.
Mm,
It's kind of like reminds me of David Ramsey a lot, where he just becomes dogmatic and he has this hard, fast rule that makes no sense. He says, "Well, all debt is bad." That's like saying if you find one person who's a criminal, all people are bad. If you find, because we had a forest fire, all fire is bad. That blanket statement, that's where the myth is. So when people say, well, options are evil and, options are bad and you should never touch them, that really is incorrect. The way to think about this, and the way I would, try to explain it to Dave, who is not much of a learner, he tends to talk more than he listens. But the way I try to walk him through that is I'd say think of it in terms of utility. Because if I look at something like fire in terms of its utility, I'd say, well, it certainly could, something to be respected. You could burn your house down, you could burn your flesh, so it could destroy property and could also, inflict injury. So yeah, you want to be careful with that fire. It could get away from you. But to say I don't want to cook my food or light my way or heat my cabin or chase off the bear or all of the other things that fire, or sterilize something or boil the water, fire can do so many things that to say, oh, all of it's just bad, well, that'd be not, maybe not a myth, but just kind of misunderstood. Well, debt's the same way. Any type of leverage gives you some power, so it's how we're using it. And options are the same way. Options are a form of leverage without debt. So with leverage comes power, but we certainly wouldn't just run from it from some dogmatic, because there is risk in options, just like there isn't anything else in stocks. But you can also use it to eliminate risk. You can use it to mitigate risk. So, or to, I shouldn't say to eliminate, to fix risk or reduce it. So yeah, understanding their utility, I think, is the biggest thing. Is people that have never studied them. If you got to know how it worked a little bit, you'd say, "Wow, these are indispensable." That's the way I would look at debt. Debt in wealth building is darn near indispensable. The idea that you would never have any type of a lever in your life at all is just silly. So in real estate, debt is the main lever. In stocks, options might be the main lever. The difference is debt is, when you have to borrow money to do something, you don't have to borrow money to have an option. So that's the difference.
Now, as we kind of gear this conversation towards the beginner investor, I do want to talk terminology a little bit. Calls, puts. What is a call? What is a put? What's the difference between the two?
Yeah, there's only 6 things you can do. You can buy a stock, sell a stock. That's 2 of them. You can buy a call, sell a call. That's 4 of them. And you can buy a put, sell a put. So those are the 6 things you can do. And calls are just choices, contracts that let you lock in a buy price, where now it's your choice to buy something. And the person on the other side of that contract, they have an obligation to sell it. A put option is just the opposite. It locks in my ability to sell if I want to. The other person is now obligated to buy. So it's really important to think of stocks and options in the terms of 2 people. The person on one side of the agreement, the person on the other side of the agreement, much like your insurance company. You pay a premium to your insurance company, and now they make you a promise to protect your car, or your house, or your health, or your life. Some type, insurance. They're going to make sure you're okay. The same is true with a put option. When you pay someone a premium, you lock in a price to buy or sell. That person has to make sure that they deliver on that promise. So it's really wise to think of those options in terms of two people, one person on one side of the agreement who's the buyer of that agreement, the other person who's the seller. Same's true with rent. You have a person who, pays to stay in the house, and you have the person that promises you that, you can stay in the house. Insurance, rental contracts, option contracts, NBA contracts. It's just two people. It's just an agreement. A contract is a great word for an agreement where one person has obligations and the other person has choices.
Mm. Why would you say the rich or the wealthy use options for income? And like, how does using options the rich dad way shift the game for investors?
So I think one of the best, shortest explanations of that is Robert wrote a book called The Unfair Advantage. And he was so good about this. He invited all of his advisors at the time, there's 6 of them, to contribute to that book in just small ways. And in one particular chapter on risk, he asked me, he says, "Hey, would you contribute to this chapter?" So he kind of hands the pen over, or the keyboard, or the mic, or whatever. And he says, "Andy, tell us about this. What's the difference between amateurs and pros?" Same thing you said. What do professionals use these for? And I said, the biggest difference in stocks and options between amateurs and pros is amateurs tend to focus on capital gains for money. They want to buy low and sell high, where professionals focus on the cash flow, monthly cash flow. So, if we have our mandatory golden goose reference, this would be it. Amateurs are trying to buy the goose low and sell it high, and they don't pay attention to the golden eggs that the goose could provide. For the professionals, they're not interested as much in the price fluctuation as the geese or as the eggs. And then the other part is how they manage risk. This is where options really shine. The amateur uses diversification to risk, which Buffett thinks is madness. Literally, that's what he and Charlie says. It strikes us as madness to do this. It's crazy, but they spread it out and hope winners outnumber the losers. That's not much of a risk management strategy. But we use options as professionals because it gives us guarantees. And I'd rather have a guarantee than hope anytime. I mean, that's really the difference. Diversification is a hope strategy. Options is a guarantee strategy. And if you have your choice between hope and guarantee, you pick guarantee every time. So that's really the crux of it, is we can offer to be an insurer and get extra income. And that's just vital to what I do. Every month of my life, for years, I've received income from offering options to other people. It's a great business. If a person, that people don't realize how simple that is to sell an option. I mean, maybe it's something for the second half. I don't know. It's pretty elaborate, or not really elaborate, but pretty involved. And it is strange to me that every single person would not want that income or wouldn't learn to have it. It is probably by far, I don't like the term easy money, because things are awfully simple if you understand them and simply awful if you don't. But once you do understand them and it's awfully simple, then it really is easy money. I don't know any way to put it. You click and get paid. You click a button and you get paid, and they're just not that complex. And every person, if you look at the, I suppose there's maybe 2-3 million subscribers on this on this channel. Every single one of them should have income doing this. That's why we have Stockcast bonus. If you were to look at the 2 or 3 million people that subscribe to this channel, I would guarantee that a very small percentage of them are doing click and get paid. They could. Nothing stops them other than a little education. They could all enjoy that income. But that's why this topic's so important. But because of stigma or whatever, it's just like if you went to David Ramsey's audience, they would say, oh, very few of them are in debt. They should be using leverage, but they don't. And the same is true here. Everyone, in my opinion, well, it's not my opinion, it's a fact. Everyone has the opportunity to click a mouse and have an income stream in their life every month, no question about it, no matter where in the world you live. It's just how it is. It's just a matter of whether people want to seize that opportunity with a little financial education.
I love that. I think you're right. Let's go to break. I do want to dig in a little bit more to click and get paid because I think we're all dying to learn. So,
Yeah, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal. So we've covered the basics, but now it's time to get tactical. So listeners, when we come back, Andy's going to walk through how everyday investors can start using options to create consistent cash flow, even if you're just getting started. And don't forget to visit stockcastbonus.com right now. Grab your free tools and start investing smarter, whether you're new or experienced. These resources will help you to level up. Stick around. We'll be right back.
So far, it's been great. I needed a source where I could really enrich my education through stocks. I didn't really have an avenue for it, and it's helped me a lot. The simplicity has really gotten me on the track to where I enjoy the learning as well as it's really solidifying in my mind. And like, they're not just trying to sell you something, they really care about the people that are in the course, and they really do care about you and your personal goals, and what you want to do is to help you and your family and whatever your goals are in life through that. So it's really been great.
Welcome back to Rich Dad Stockcast. Today, we're exploring how to use stock options the right way for cash flow, not guessing. Andy, let's get into some of the of your favorite strategies. Click and get paid. I just love that phrase just from the get-go. So walk us through, okay, monthly, we're clicking, we're getting paid. Start from the beginning. How do we do this?
Yeah, I mean, I used to call this the quickest, easiest, fastest way to establish an income stream, bar none. And I think I said that 20 years ago, and it's still true today. I don't think click and get paid is a way, someone goes from rags to riches overnight. You're not going to, have $1 million a year from day one when you start that, but it's something you can build. What I will say is this: if someone wanted to have a contest right now, and we were both sitting at our computer keyboards and said, let's see who can make some money the fastest, it would take me less than 10 seconds. It just doesn't take any time. Think about this for a moment and step back. What is click and get paid? Well, it grows from, a principle from our Buckminster Fuller that says, the more people that I serve, the more effective I become. In other words, that's what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurship is solving problems. Entrepreneurship is giving value to others. Entrepreneurship is looking at the world and saying, what do they need and how can I help them? And what can I do to bring value to the world? That's what it is. That's what making money is in the world. Unless you hope to win the lottery, or unless you get an inheritance, then the other option is to, if you don't want to rely on those things or they're not in the cards for you, if you want more money in your life, you have to ask yourself, how can I bring more value to the world? That's a hard question in this day and age. Really a hard question, because human labor is waning. AI is becoming more valuable. I use it constantly now. And it's amazing how it hasn't cost any jobs, at the Cashflow Academy. But what it does do is it stopped me from hiring, contract work, things that I used to hire out, AI can just do. So anyway, it's hard to give value to the world. And so someone says, well, what business should I start? That's hard to do. It's hard to come up with a product and a service and to advertise and to sell and to customer serve. And, entrepreneurship is hard. So one of the things you can do is you can be of value to others by giving them choices. It's a built-in business. They're ready to hand over their money. You don't need a sales pitch. You don't need any advertising. You don't need any marketing. You don't need an assembly line. You don't need raw materials. You don't need employees. You don't need any of the things you normally need to make it as an entrepreneur. You need a mouse. You need a computer and you need a stock account. That's it. And a little bit of cash. And so you don't need a franchise. You don't need to go to Hamburger U. All that stuff is eliminated where you now have people that will buy something from you. So what's your product? Well, Del, think about the insurance industry for a minute. What's their product? They sell promises. That's all it is. They sell promises. They don't have any real estate. They don't have any manufacturing, packaging, raw materials, assembly. They don't have any of that stuff. They just say, here, I promise you this. I've got some money, and I promise if such and such happens, I'll give you some money. That's it. And if you want to know where the money is, you go to Wall Street and you see two big buildings. You see insurance companies and banks. That's where all the money is. In Vegas, you got casinos. They're small compared to insurance companies and banks. The reason insurance goes so well is they have float and they don't make anything. They just make money. That's it. So imagine that power to simply say, you're already doing, if you live in the United States and you have a 401k, you're already doing this without getting paid. Imagine if you could find something in your life you're already doing that you should have been getting paid for. It's like, let's say you went out and you were like Forrest Gump and you just mowed the grass for the whole town. You just mowed everyone's grass, but you weren't getting paid for it. It was work you were doing, risk you were taking, energy you were putting out there, but you weren't getting paid for it. Well, that's what a 401k is. A 401k is a promise to buy things in advance. That's it. You say, I'm going to buy some stocks, mutual funds, so I'm going to sign up for a 401k. And the moment you sign up for 401k, when you get that paycheck, you're going to buy something. You've committed to it. No one gets paid for that. Well, I do. I have the same thing. I say, well, I want to buy some stock. But instead of being a 401k, I go to the market and I say, I promise to buy it at this low price. They'll pay me for that promise. They'll pay me a premium for it up front. They'll pay me every month. And so by making promises to buy low and making promises to sell high, you have a built-in business that builds your wealth, I might add, and protects your wealth, I might add. And so that's what Click and Get Paid is. It's the ability to say, I think I'd like to buy, Apple at this particular price this month. I think I'll make a promise to do that. Click, and now I get paid. Now, people say, well, what are the details and how does it work? Well, that's what Stockcast bonus is for. That's what the Cashflow Academy is for. That's what mentorship is for and coaching is for, is to teach you what promises to make and where and when and how long and what price and on what stock. All those are the details. But once a person learns how to make promises, it's every month. It is every month with incredible probabilities that exceed 80%, 90% if you want. Incredible probabilities of success. So that's it. That's Click and Get Paid. I'm promising to buy stocks that I want in advance. I'm promising to sell the stocks I want to sell in advance. And I'm getting paid every month to make those exchanges. That's it. So it's very powerful. And everyone could do it. Every person within the sound of our voices could learn to do it.
Now, I love the idea of Click and Get Paid. The income is great, but let's also go on the hedge side of things. You spoke of insurance companies. How and puts, right? How can puts be used like insurance for your stock portfolio?
I think a great use case or a great example of it is Mark Cuban. It's really how he made, or well, I shouldn't say it's how he retained his fortune. And he tells the story often. He's told it on Bloomberg and CNBC and, 60 Minutes, and everyone that's interviewed him, he's told the story. Mark Cuban was a decent stock trader and a decent options trader. He knew how they worked before, he became wealthy. He dabbled in it, more than dabbled in it. He was pretty good at it. But when he sold his company broadcast.com to the search engine Yahoo, back in year 2000-ish, 1999, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there. He sold that company to Yahoo for $5.7 billion in stock, and he got over $1 billion out of it himself. And so here you got over $1 billion in stock, and you want to protect it. You want choices. And so what he did is he says, look, I'll promise to sell this stock if it goes up to here. Let's get my hand in the frame here. If it goes up here, the stock goes from here to here, I promise to sell it. And they gave him a bunch of money. So he's going to liquidate that stock if it goes up, right? And sell high and make more cash. So he makes that advance promise and people will pay you for that. It's called selling a call option, covered call. Very simple. He takes that cash and he buys these put options, says, but if it goes down to this far, just a little bit, if it goes down this far, I want to guarantee that I can sell it. So he actually self-funded his own insurance, and now he's in what we call a collar position, where if it goes up, he'll sell it and make the cash. And if it goes down, he'll sell it and, make the cash. It's just if he's going to sell it here or here. And so he's protected to a certain level, and he's got a ceiling in which he'll sell at. And now his risk is locked into here to here. It's very short, very, very small risk. Well, of course, Yahoo stock, it just burst when the internet bubble burst. They said, well, Google's a better search engine, and it's just better. And so, Yahoo was more like Ask Jeeves and Alta Vista and the web crawler and all the other ones we used to have. And down it goes to like $5. Well, he had the option. He had the choice to sell it at $100 when it's only worth $5. Well, if you have a contract that says you can sell it $100, in theory, a person could buy the stock at $5 and sell it $100. So there's $95 of what we call intrinsic value in that contract now. Mark Cuban was able to cash in those options, so to speak, that gave him the ability to sell at a high price. And, when the market fell, to use his words, those puts were worth a fortune, unquote. And that's billions of dollars in his pocket, And so what do you do after that? Well, you go buy the Dallas Mavericks. You get on Shark Tank and, screw around the rest of your life having fun. So it really is the options market that enabled that. And so for someone to say, well, options are too risky, actually, quite the opposite was true. He used the options as a hedge. A hedge, when people, you got to understand the word hedge. You said, Andy, tell us about the hedging part. A hedge is a defense. It's like a fortress around your house. If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's a hedge. So the first person to use it as a defense was Shakespeare. He said to hedge, which is to defend, to lurch, which is to attack. And back in the medieval times, if you build a big stone wall around your castle, well, that's going to decay in 100 years or 50 years. Big stone walls decay. So they would create living walls, and the most popular one they would use. All of a sudden, I'm like, I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can't stand that dude. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he knows everything about everything. He's just this arrogant. Oh, well, I'll tell you about this. I know, the circumference of the earth. And did you know that if you had an ice skate and, blah, 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 and the friction of the coefficient of, so I'm sounding like him I'm a hawthorn bush expert all of a sudden. But the hawthorn bushes are thorny, nasty hedges, and they grow about 3 meters in every direction. So if you line them up in a hedgerow, that's formidable. It's a 3-meter living wall that's thorny and nasty and, hard to get through. They're so resilient that in World War II, when they were invading different parts of Europe or defending different parts of Europe, and they were going to try and get through these hawthorn bushes, they had to do these things called rhino tanks. They could stop a tank. And on the you can Google this, on the front of the tank, they had these 5 or 6 huge sharp spades they would sharpen to try to cut through these hawthorn bushes because they could stop a tank. They were that. I mean, imagine that, stopping a tank with a bush. So the hedge is a defense, and that's what we use these options for. So when they say, hey, I'm going to use these as a hedge, it means I'm going to defend my castle. Now think about that. Warren Buffett talks about a moat, which is the same thing. The moat is defending the castle. Well, so does a hedge. So if I have both, if I understand moats and hedges, now I have a greater defense. So, you said, well, what does it mean to hedge? That's what it means, is to defend. Same concept as a moat. So why would I want a castle without a moat? And why would I want a castle without a hedge? To me, the more defense, the better. So there you go. There's your Department of Defense speech.
I love it. I had no clue that I'd learned so much about bushes today on this.
Yeah, there you go. Hawthorn bushes. So that's
there we go.
I was hoping everyone caught the Zeppelin reference there. There's a bustle in your hedgerow. Don't be alarmed now. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen. So there you go.
There we go. I like that little Easter egg in there. A little rock and roll for us.
Little Zeppelin reference and show everyone how old I am. So there you go.
All right. Now, last question. You spoke of edutainment. I love that word. I think it's a cool word, but there's a problem with that. There's a lot of times we lack action that goes along with it. So the question is, if someone wants to take action this week, what's the simple next step?
Yeah, go to cashflowbonus.com and I would download the ebook. That thing is a step-by-step guide to action. What habits can you start putting in your life right now that will result in you clicking and getting paid every month? It's just a pathway within 30. Imagine this. What if 30 days from now you click and get paid every month the rest of your life? That's significant. I mean, I look at all the years I've done this, and every once in a while I just go add up how much premium I've collected on this stock or that stock over the years, and it is a significant compounder, folks. So, my challenge to people would be this: say, you know what, within 30 days I'm going to learn how to click and get paid, and it might start with a small amount, and then it grows, and that's how wealth is built. It doesn't occur; it's built. And then you learn it. And my wife and I watched, we'll watch a documentary once in a while because it's entertaining, but generally it's not something that's actionable when you're just watching for edutainment. You're getting educated and you're getting entertained, but you're not getting richer. That's not the purpose of the Cashflow Academy, is to entertain. And certainly we like to inform, but we believe the information is for action, not observation. I think it was one of my favorite clergymen, Neil Maxwell. He said, mere intellectual assent to a truth, if unapplied, robs us of the relevant experiences. He said, sometimes he worries in various situations. He says that talking about them is a substitute for doing things. That's an issue that I'll have sometimes with church is, people will talk about things like honesty. Well, you can talk about it all you want. Why don't we do it? Let's be honest. You talk about kindness. Well, yeah, let's go out and do it. You talk about refraining from gossip. Let's go out and talk nice about folks. So yeah, action is where wealth comes from, not entertainment. There's two feel goods you can have. You can have aha moments that feel great. And that's kind of what edutainment is. You're watching something. It's like, wow, that's cool. Oh, that's neat. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, hawthorn bush. Isn't that amazing? I just became an expert on hawthorn bushes today. But if you just leave it at that and you don't click the mouse, then there's no money. So in my world, this is my best friend. You click this mouse. This is how the money comes. Click and get paid. Click and get paid. And I just know how to go boom on the right, I know how to point this on my screen in the right place, bang. And then you can have money come to you and income come to you that you've earned by giving value to the world. It's called a premium. So there you go. That's my spiel on my rant, low key rant today, but that's my rant on action and edutainment and the lack of action tied to edutainment.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's do this. Let's wrap up here. Listeners, most people run away from what they don't understand, but when you take the time to learn tools like stock options, you realize just how powerful they can be. And again, big thank you to Andy Tanner for breaking it down to us as always. If you want to build smarter cash flow strategies using tools like this, your next move is simple. Go to stockcastbonus.com. We've got free training, resources to walk you through the fundamentals and help you to make better investing decisions. And if you got value from today's episode, be sure to like it, subscribe, share it with someone who's ready to level up their investing education. You're not here by accident. You're building something most people won't. So stay smart, stay invested, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.